Hello everyone, I am Amod and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video tutorial, we will learn about another Playwright locator called getByTestId. And the official documentation of Playwright says about this locator is that this locator can be used to locate an element based on its data-testId attribute. So what is a test ID? First of all, ID and test ID both are not same, but we can use ID as test ID. You will understand this statement in some time. So let's understand the basic first. So we know that in a wave element we can have multiple attributes and many are standard one like ID, name, class name, title, placeholder, etc. All these attributes add a special meaning to wave element, but we can also use them to locate the wave element to perform actions on them using any wave automation frameworks like Selenium, Playwright, etc. So apart from the standard one, we can also add some custom attributes to wave elements. A custom attribute should start with data hyphen as per HTML5 standard. So why do we need a custom attribute? So suppose we have a web page with multiple web elements and we request developer to provide some proper and static ID values so that we can use them in automated script and our script will be stable. So many developers prefer to provide static IDs, but sometimes it's not possible because we have so many modern front end frameworks which renders these web elements dynamically, where we will have ID attribute, but their values might be dynamic. So instead of changing the ID value, developer can provide or add a custom attribute to those web elements, and these custom attributes will not have any impact on the web element. So one of the most used custom attribute is data-testId, which is generally used for testing purpose. In fact, in automated testing, again, I wanted to clear one point here that it's not mandatory to use the same name. It can be anything, but it should start from data hyphen, which is a HTML5 standard. So here I have created one sample HTML page, and if you inspect this page, you can see I have three buttons. First button has one custom attribute, data-testId. In the second button, we have another custom attribute, but the name is changed, but it is starting with data dash. And then we have third button where I'm using ID attribute. So now let's locate the first button using its test ID. So I have basic test ID where I'm loading my created HTML page. This HTML page you can find in my GitHub repo. So first of all, I need to copy the value of this data-testId attribute, and we can use await page dot getByTestId. And here you just need to pass the test ID value, which I have already copied. And here I can extract this text value, which is login and log on the console. So I can use inner text method. Let me store into a variable, and this I can log on console. Let me run this test. So I'll go to testing tab, expand it. Under basics, I have created this spec file. So let's click on run. Page has been loaded, and if you go to console, we see login text. That means we are able to locate the button using its test ID. This is happy scenario. But for the second button, the custom attribute name is different. It's data-QA. But Playwright getByTestId locator will always look for this attribute. Then what we can do in this case? So in this case, we need to configure the exact custom attribute name. But it is expected that in your application, you are following the same custom attribute name everywhere. It's not like that you are using some name here and for other elements you are using some different name. So your developer also needs to follow an approach. So to configure the different name, first of all, we need to import another global object called selector, which is of type selector. So import, and object name is selectors, which is also from playwright/test. Now this selectors object has one method called setTestAttribute, and here you need to give the name of your custom test ID attribute, which is data-QA. you can see the name of my custom attribute. Now we can use await, then page dot get by test ID and pass the test ID value, which will be register button. And let me get the inner text and print on the console. So I'll directly use console.log here. So what I am doing, by default, getByTestId will look for this attribute with the name data-testId. But it is possible that you can have some different name. So we need to first configure so that getByTestId locator will look for the customized attribute name instead of default one, so which I am doing using selectors object. Let me quickly run, and you can see it is printing register text. Now instead of setting this test attribute here, we can define it in configuration as well. For that, we can go to config file, and in the use object here I can have one key called test attribute, and here I can define the name of my custom attribute, which is data hyphen qa comma. Now I can get rid of these lines because I have already defined the configuration in the config file itself, so no need to define it in all the files or test methods. Let me run this again. It has failed and it says waiting for the getByTestId login button. I hope you got the reason already. So basically I have changed the default attribute name. So that has impacted this attribute or this method call as well. Here instead of looking for default attribute name, it is looking for data-qa, which is not present. That's why it has failed. So as of now, I will comment these lines and run the test again. So you can see it is printing register text on the console. So in the beginning, I told that we can use ID attribute as data test ID. So how to do that? That is very simple. You must have got the idea. So here we are configuring which ID or which attribute name you need to look for. So instead of data-qa, we can use ID. So my ID is new test ID, but this is not recommended, but this is the way we can achieve. So for the third wave element where we have ID 1, we can use getByTestId locator here. You can give it a try. This is very simple. So this is a powerful locator if you are following any custom attribute in your web elements. So that's all in this video. If you have any doubt, please comment on this video. If you really like my videos, please like, comment, subscribe and share with others. Thank you everyone.